Has 3 votes. It's on call.
Bill's on call. Thank you so much. Up next, we have Senator Mitchell, SB 23.
Move the bill.
Second. How you doing?
Sir, pretty good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members.
Yes,
Ready?
yes, please.
I'm happy today to present SB 23, and I think it was fortuitous that we came behind the Assembly members' resolution and to have a meaningful conversation on federal poverty level. And while we can sometimes get caught up in semantics and measures, while I completely support the transition to a more current, realistic poverty measure, the reality is dollars and cents. And the federal poverty level right now for a family of 3 is about $20,000 a year. The average CalWORKS grant, the CalWORKS program that's designed and spoken of in statute as government's intention to prevent children from slipping deeper into poverty, one could argue is failing, because our average CalWORKS grant today keeps that same family at about 30% of the federal poverty level. Families who are impacted by the maximum family grant, which this bill here today is trying to repeal, limits families to about 25% of the federal poverty level. And so we could do the math. And so as we have a conversation about the measure, I hope that we don't get lost in semantics and we are clear about the real dollars we're talking about families having to survive on in the state of California. I wish deeply that your offices were overrun by people calling with their utter disdain about the maximum family grant, like you got calls on some other bills heard today. And I'm saddened to say I'm sure you weren't. This is a silent killer. Poverty is a silent killer of families and children here in the state of California. And that's why we have once again brought SB 23 to your attention. The MFG rule creates 2 classes of children in poor families, some who receive assistance, quite frankly, and some who don't. We believe that it's time that the state of California stop punishing poor children for simply having the misfortune of being born too close to their sibling, and prohibit the state from inserting itself into the private, reproductive, and medical decisions of families who are poor and seeking basic assistance for their kids. It's been 15 years since the rule was implemented, and we still have no evidence that it ever worked to disincentivize welfare abuse or lower birth rates, and I use that terminology in quotes. Yet over the same period of time, we've seen California families slip deeper into poverty. Again, over 15 years ago, the CalWORKS program was a very different program. Maximum Family Grant was implemented in California before federal welfare reform. And so it was before we had a time-limited program. It was before the program that we know today has so many, quite frankly, restrictions and limitations, before there were mandatory hours required of work every week, before, quite frankly, California limited our CalWORKS program to 24 months. And so it's an age-old policy whose time has come to end. Too many children are put deeper at risk for growing up in poverty as a result of it. And there are a number of states across the country who have repealed their policy, and we believe it's California's time to do the same. We have a number of witnesses here who have real-life, everyday experiences of living within the maximum family grant, and I ask your indulgence to hear their testimony.
Sure.
Who's going first?
I'm going to start, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm Elizabeth Lauer-Bash. I'm the Director of Income and Work Supports at the Center for Law and Social Policy, or CLASP. We're a national anti-poverty organization. We work at both the federal and state level. Before that, I worked at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on the TANF program. California is one of 16 states that have some form of family cap, which is another name for the maximum family grant here. nationally, according to the data, about half the children who are affected by these policies live in California. Families affected by the benefit cap have received about 20% a month less in cash assistance than they would otherwise have received. These policies were created under the idea that somehow families were having children in order to increase their welfare benefits. This was based on stereotype and, frankly, on racial bias. It has never been shown to be true. We now have 20 years of evidence from these programs in California and in other states, and there's no evidence to suggest that they've caused fewer people to have children when you compare welfare recipients to other families. What we do know they've done is push families deeper into poverty, and particularly families with very young children. This has really serious consequences, both on the daily lives of families, but also on their long-term development. The early years, as we've learned more in recent years, are very crucial for security, for developing your brain, for developing your body. When parents are trying to deal with making sure that they can buy food, that they can buy diapers, they don't have the time, as much energy to deal with interacting with their babies. This is an enormous thing. We spend a lot of time talking about how much we care about our infants. I've been listening to the testimony today as well. If you think about it as a scale of disadvantage and ways that we strengthen families, and we think about how we invest in strengthening families through preschool or other activities, that's putting a finger on the scale on the positive side. The maximum family grant is putting a finger on the scale on the negative side, on the side of disadvantage. Since 2002, 6 states have recognized how counterproductive their family cap policies are and have repealed them. These include Maryland, Illinois, Nebraska, Wyoming, Oklahoma, and most recently Minnesota. These are not all Democratic states or Republican states. It's a mix of states. They recognize that it just didn't make sense. I urge California to join them.
I agree. Thank you, Mike. Where are we? Doing
I'm here today. My name is Liana Powell. I'm 31 years old. I brought my son. He's 11 years old, and I'm 8 months pregnant with a daughter. My son will be turning 12 the month after my daughter will be born. So currently I'm receiving CalWorks. The grant that I receive each month is $350, and that is not including the extra $40, the $40 supplement for pregnancy to help buy maternity underwear, necessities, bras and panties, because you definitely need to buy different things when you are gaining weight in those areas. Anyway, I wanted to give you a little bit of background because of the stereotype that welfare recipients are lazy and uneducated and don't want to work. So I graduated high school in 2001 as a valedictorian of my class. 6 months later, I moved into my own apartment. I was 17 years old, and I started working my first job after high school at East Bay Paratransit, where I was the youngest person in the office at that time. And 2 years later, I started working for Comcast when that was introduced to California. I was 19 years old when I started working there full-time because it made a little extra money there. And that's when I became pregnant with my now 11-year-old son. And as a full-time employee there, I was fired due to coming to work with bruises because I was in domestic violence relationship with my child's father, and I was fired due to, it was a call center, however, I was fired, and they could do that under law because I came to work with visible bruises on my body. After that, I began working as a bartender, and I worked for a bartender for several years while simultaneously receiving CalWorks benefits because bartending didn't pay enough money for me to get off of aid. Shortly after that bartending, I had medical issues, and that's when I realized that I could not sustain my life as a bartender, so I decided to go to college. I attended Laney Community College for 6 semesters full time. There I also was receiving CalWorks benefits, but just because I was on CalWorks, people think that it comes on time every month and you're just getting this money. It was not working that way for me. It was late. Certain things didn't get paid for, like my books. I had to go to catch the bus to several different libraries every day just to complete my homework, as well as being a single mother of a child that I had to get to his school after I got out of school to make sure that he was picked up on time so that they wouldn't call CPS if I was late. I had to read my books in the library because I couldn't always afford to print the copies of the books that I needed because my CalWorks grant didn't come on time or my books didn't get paid for. And these are all things that I was due to receive, however, did not receive them on time. This happened consecutively for 6 semesters, where I attended there for 6 semesters, spring, summer, fall, for 2 years. It happened constantly. Eventually, I got overwhelmed and I gave up because it was so hard to do all of that at one time and to be a young mother. So I gave up on school because of the books and the transportation. It was also a time where California was cutting back because of the benefits in California where we were at a budget deficit. So the college instructors did not have office hours to have time to assist me being a first-time college student. I needed those office hours with my instructors that were not available because those instructors had to go get other jobs because they couldn't also afford to stay there and give you the time that you needed. So I gave up on school and I decided to take a break. However, I did not stop working hard. After that, I began taking classes at smaller institutions, more like what do you call them? Career colleges. I did graduate with Bay EMT, which is an EMT program in Alameda County run by the firefighters there. I graduated that class and I was unable to get that class was free, but there was a test, the state test that I needed to take after that was $500 and it exceeded my grant. I couldn't afford it. So that was a waste of time, although I completed that program. And I also volunteered simultaneously with that because that program taught me to volunteer in the community. And I volunteered with Lifetime, which was a program that helped mothers like myself who were in college, who had parents that were struggling to navigate the school system. Most of the time, they were first-time college students and needed help navigating the system because it's not easy when you don't come from a family that goes to college all the time. So I volunteered with that program for several years, and as well as I volunteer still currently with California Partnership. I also, most recently this year, I got another diploma from the Oakland Tribune with a community storytelling project. All of these things in hopes of becoming more employable so that I can get a job that I could sustain. I did complete that as well, and I have applied for positions that are not minimum wage because I need to make more than minimum wage to be able to take care of my child and to take care of this child that is coming. However, none of that stuff has panned out. I always believed if I worked hard enough, I could foresee myself out of poverty. Sorry, I wrote down a few things because it's a lot I've been going through and it's hard to keep track of everything. So I'm here. I'm 8 months pregnant. I could have had an abortion because I have had abortions in the past because I didn't feel it was the right time. However, I don't know when there will be a right time. And in my family, and the black women and the brown women that I know, a lot of them get like cystic fibrosis and different things where they have to have hysterectomies in their 30s, later 30s and early 40s. And I want to have another child. I want my son to have a sibling. Not to mention my son currently being an honor roll student and also being a target because he loves to wear these things with hoods on his head. And I have to make him take the hood off his head all the time because I don't want him to get mistaken for, just being a problem in society. He's an honor roll student and maintained honor roll throughout the entire year for his first year of middle school. And looking for school shoes over the summer, I was told that I could no longer shop in the kids department, and I now have to shop in the men's department because he wears a size 8 and he's 11. So, so that's a whole nother set of stress. Okay. So I'm just here, and I'm currently asking you to repeal the maximum family grant rule, although it may not help me because I don't plan to remain on CalWorks. However, there are a lot of people in my situation. I know a lot of mothers in college who would like to have a family and who are struggling, and I'm just hoping that this will. If it could change right now, yes, it could help me, but there's tons of other people in my same situation. His father is in prison, so I do not receive child support from his father. And currently, this child that I'm pregnant with, this dad is disabled. He recently was taking care of his father, who is a veteran, and who gave him his deceased mother's engagement ring to propose to me. And so we hope to get married and to be able to have a stable life. However, right now we're unable to do that, and that is the plan for the future. We are not lazy, but this will not help not repealing this MFG rule. So please consider this when voting on this bill.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming up, your testimony. We'll allow one more.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carlos Tovar. I work for the Los Angeles County Department of Social Services as an eligibility worker 2. And I'm also with SEIU 721 shop steward for my district in Cudahy. In my 17 years of working in CalWorks, my goals have remained the same, helping parents, mostly mothers, get back on their feet, and most of all, supporting the kids during that process. Unfortunately, because of the maximum MFG rule, my job also includes making an anxious and emotional difficult time for my clients even more difficult. Unfortunately, my job now includes asking profound, inappropriate, probing questions about my client's personal life. Mm-hmm. Under the rule, we've asked questions like, are you pregnant? Who's the father? Mm-hmm. What kind of contraception you use? Do you have a doctor's note to prove that it failed? Mm-hmm. Or even whether the pregnancy was a result of rape. Mm-hmm. And I'm not in that, and that's not my job title, to figure out if it was rape or not. This line of questioning profoundly embarrasses both client and myself. Some women are offended. They get defensive, understandably. So in my opinion, it shuts doors, and I can't get no information from them to go forward on their case. So anxious and upset that they go silent and they retreat into a shell. For workers, it is embarrassing that the state of California has commissioned us to engage in conversations like that, frankly demeaning, disrespectful, and irrelevant. Ultimately, these conversations are also counterproductive. They undermine the trust, discourage mothers from accessing services that their children need. And this brings me back to my main point, the children who have nothing to do with this are ultimately the ones who is being punished. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there any additional witnesses in support of the bill? Please come up to the microphone and state your name and affiliation.
Frank Mecca. I'm the Executive Director of the County Welfare Directors Association. We're a proud co-sponsor of the bill. And for the compelling reasons that you've already heard, we urge you to pass this bill.
Thank you.
Dennis Garcia on behalf of the California Latinas for Reproductive Justice, proud co-sponsor of the bill. Ask for your support.
Great. Thank you.
Brian Howe on behalf of United Ways of California. We are in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Asden and Coalition California Welfare Rights Organization, strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mariah Watson, American Civil Liberties Union of California, and we're in support.
Thank you.
Selena Pryor Dansby with SEIU Local 1000, also in support.
Thank you.
Christopher Castrillo on behalf of the City and County in San Francisco, and opposite Mayor Ed Lee, also on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Solano County, all in support. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Martha Guerrero representing the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. SB 23 is a priority for the Board of Supervisors. Homelessness and housing instability remain serious barriers for stability among CalWorks families, and without aid, families struggle to maintain stable housing. Since July 2006, the number of CalWorks homeless families has skyrocketed by 188% to nearly 16,000. Repealing the MFG rule would provide support to families that experience housing instability. Therefore, I urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, please state your name and affiliations, please.
Alex Hawthorne on behalf of San Mateo County in support.
Thank you.
Latoya Ramsey, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter, in support.
Thank you.
Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California in support.
Thank you.
Leslie Heimov, Children's Law Center of California, in support.
Thank you.
Barbara Barron on behalf of the National Council of Jewish Women in support.
Thank you.
Michelle Stoll-Pravensky, Children's Defense Fund California, in strong support.
Thank you.
Carol Moon Goldberg, representing the League of Women Voters of California, in support of SB 23. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Young, California Labor Federation, also here in support.
Thank you.
Shannon Smith Crowley on behalf of American Association of University Women for California, in support.
Thank you.
Susie Costa with the Advancement Project, in strong support.
Thank you.
Justin Garrett with March of Dimes, in support.
Thank you.
Melanie Garza, Access Women's Health Justice, in very strong support.
Thank you.
Art Carlson, Lutheran Office of Public Policy, in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sydney Reyes with the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence, in support.
Thank you.
Jill Adams, UC Berkeley School of Law Center on Reproductive Rights and Justice, in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ciara Harris with Access Women's Health Justice. We're a co-sponsor of the bill and in strong support.
Thank you.
Sonia Gojavila, Access Women's Health Justice, in strong support. Andrea Castillo with the Latino Coalition for a Healthy California, in strong support.
Thank you.
Gregory Kramer, Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California, in strong support.
Thank you.
Nicole Wertelman on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors and Ventura County Board of Supervisors, in support.
Thank you.
Kimberly Rosenberger, Service Employees International Union State Council. We're also in strong support.
Thank you.
Catherine Kimmel, Bay Area Legal Aid, in strong support.
Thank you.
Joanna Parnes with Bay Area Legal Aid, in strong support.
Thank you.
Lydia Bourne, American Academy of Pediatrics, California Division, in support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Monica Miller representing the Jewish Family Services of Los Angeles, in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Radigan on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, Santa Clara County, in support.
Thank you.
Linda Warner with the California Catholic Conference, in support.
Thank you.
Andrew Shane, California Association of Food Banks, in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Mossberg, California Food Policy Advocates, in support.
Thank you.
Maynard Wade, Alameda County resident, in strong support.
Thank you.
And Jessica Bartholow as a sponsor, Western Center on Law and Poverty, support.
Thank you. Any witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Any questions from the member? Mr. Thomo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to thank the author for bringing the bill. I think the impacts and the necessity has been very well stated. Thank you, Mr. Tobar, for your testimony. I also wanted to commend our honorable student and future assembly member. And
right.
I hope you will come back
Future
here again.
governor, don't sell him short.
I'm just saying, I got 12 years. He'd probably take my seat. So, what he chooses to do after that, and future governor, senator, assembly member, Ms. Powell, thank you for your testimony. There's nothing that I can say that would take away all the difficulties that you've had to overcome. But let me simply acknowledge having heard you in all that you have overcome and how much you have persevered, how much you have helped to lift and break stereotypes, and how much you've told the story that I think articulates the need for this change and why this change is warranted for many. And I would simply say that I hope that you continue to achieve what you have educationally in other ways and not stop. Like I said, I know it's not easy. I'm not trying to minimize it, but as you told your story, and I want to encourage your courage. Thank you for your courage. You reminded me of my cousin who raised me, probably about the same age that you are now, when she adopted me and my younger brother, and who has a single mom, raised 2 boys, and took food stamps and government cheese and worked 2 jobs and graduated from community college and just kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing us. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for folks like yourself. I want to encourage you to keep pushing, and thank you for being a great spokesperson for why we should repeal the maximum family grant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I definitely also wanted to thank the youngest witnesses that ever sitting in the stand during my 6 months as your committee chair on human services. So whether it be a future governors, assembly member, follow Mr. Thurman's footstep, or our president footstep, I congratulate you for your experience at such a young age. I think it is really a shame that we still have the MFG rules in place in California. It's really baseless, and it hurts families that are already struggling, and that reflect poorly on the state as a whole. So I'll definitely be supporting this bill, and I want to thank the senator for bringing it forward. Thank you. With that, do you want it to close?
If I may, sir, I really appreciate it. And in your absence, Mr. Chair, the Vice Chair and the previous bill expressed his commitment and a core belief that we both share, which is that poverty must become the top priority of this state legislature and this administration. It is the chronic issue that will not go away without commitment and swift, decisive action by this body. And I am hoping that we can continue the conversation around maximum family grant as mere one yet very significant policy to begin to turn the tide for the 2 million children from every race, creed, or color in this state who are living in deep poverty, where their families are trying to thrive and survive in this state on less than $12,000 a year. I, too, would like to thank my fellow Angelino for also raising the other critical aspect of this bill that often goes unnoticed. I don't know of any other public benefit program, entitlement or otherwise, that has in statute questions such as you could be exempted from the maximum family grant if your child was conceived as a result of an act of rape and you can prove that you reported the rape to law enforcement. That you would be exempted from maximum family grant if your child was conceived as a result of an incestual relationship and you can prove that you went to law enforcement or some social services to report that. That a child was conceived as a result of a contraceptive failure. And in statute, it stipulates the form of contraceptive that would be acceptable if it failed. It states if the parent was using, close your ears, an intrauterine device or Norplant or a sterilization of either parent. I don't know anywhere in California code section where we expect people to answer such questions, to receive an entitlement program designed to keep children from slipping deeper into poverty. It is a sexist, classist, racist policy whose time has come to go. And I certainly hope that this body and the legislature, the administration as a whole, will have the political will and courage to do so. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. And Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senate Bill 23 by Senator Mitchell. The motion is due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Chu.
Aye.
Chu, aye. Mays.
No.
Mays, no. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Lopez. Aye. Lopez, aye. Mainshine. Stone. Thurmond. Aye. Thurmond, aye. Bill has 4 votes.
All right. The bill's out.
Thank you
We'll
very
leave
much.
it open for the missing members. And take care of your finger, please.
I'm going to try. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
You